Live from Washington, D.C. and Seattle, Washington, it's the Television Zombies Podcast, the most popular podcast on the internet. Tonight, we have News of the Week, an interview with George R.R. Martin, a look back at the 2010 TV season, a holiday visit from a special guest, and much more. We haven't been very good this year, so we're on a high Krampus alert. Warning, there are spoilers ahead.
Hello and welcome to Television Zombies, episode 149, the last episode of the year 2010. This is Jeff, a.k.a. Jeff the Zombie.
No, you totally messed up which podcast we're on, sir.
Oh my god, this is Join Us Monthly, the unofficial Call of Duty podcast.
We're going to roll with it. Who cares? This is Chris.
This is Chuck.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
I just had the sex and I'm ready to go.
Oh,
Whoa! We're getting honest. We're getting
five,
real.
Chris.
All right.
You hear that?
Loosened
that was
up.
A genuine high five.
Yeah.
Is she still in the room, Chuck?
No, she's gone.
That would be like sort of disrespectful, wouldn't it?
I just hit it and quit it. I'm like, get out. I got a podcast.
Get out. I got a podcast. And most girls these days will be like, oh, yeah, of course. Well, you got a podcast.
You're pretty awesome.
Yeah. A lot of girls understand that.
That sound means...
Time for news.
Since the interview this week is with the George R.R. Martin, let's lead off with some Game of Thrones news. WinterIsComing.net has unconfirmed reports of filming locations for Season 2 of the HBO show. According to the site, while the bulk of filming will continue to take place in Northern Ireland, the production will apparently also have shots in Morocco and Iceland. The show has shot scenes for the pilot in Morocco, and it would work well for Daenerys. How does it Daenerys? That's how he says it, right?
Yeah, you said it right.
Because I always said Daenerys.
Oh, no, I think it's
Daenerys. That's how George says it. Daenerys' journey. Iceland might work well for the scenes set in the north beyond the wall. The country isn't far from Ireland, and the government offers a 20% reimbursement to film productions. And you know what? That government is also nearly bankrupt. So,
not only that, but they actually still have a surplus of Tauntauns from all the way back in 1980. So, like, that's like free meat.
No one else uses Tauntauns.
Nobody uses Tauntauns.
But you know, the Icelanders, they actually bury the Tauntaun meat in the ground and let it rot a little bit, like they do with whale meat.
It's sort of like ripening it.
Yeah, they're ripening
well,
the
it's
meat.
like you say, like Eskimos and whale meat. They bury their Tauntauns.
Exactly, that's what they do. So,
it's good.
But it's really exciting, guys. I read this last week, and I am really excited about this.
What?
Torchwood, one of our favorite shows.
I like Torchwood.
Has added 2 actors to its cast, both American. Deadline reports that Mekhi Phifer has been cast as CIA agent CIA agent Rex Matheson, and Bill Pullman will play Oswald Jones, the convicted murderer who escapes on a technicality and ends up wrapped up in a global conspiracy that involves the remaining Torchwood team. He's also a pedophile, is he not?
I've heard that in some of the press releases. Yeah, I don't understand why that would be relevant, but yeah.
Meanwhile, the Doctor Who news page reports that both Kai Owen and Tom Price will return as Gwen's husband Reese and police officer Andy Davidson, respectively.
Well, cool. Seriously, like, Mekhi Phifer kind of excited me, because he's an actor that I sort of dig. I think he's got a lot of gravity to him.
What about Bill Pullman, though?
That's a pretty big pull, isn't it? Oh, hey, no pun intended, but seriously.
Pull man, yeah.
I mean, that'll at least make people... I don't know what it will make people. It'll be a familiar face to American audiences that might not have checked out Torchwood before.
Oh,
that's probably exactly why they chose him.
Yeah, I'm sure. Anyway, I was just sort of surprised. You know, I sincerely didn't think that they would be casting people more well-known than the existing Torchwood team, but they have.
Exactly. I mean, that's huge, really. I mean, both of those actors are real actors. They're the real deal.
Yeah, definitely.
Do they have a bigger budget now that they're doing it?
I don't know.
With BBC
Stars. No, Stars.
Oh, Stars, that's right. I'm sorry.
Maybe Stars opened up their pockets. I don't know. Do they have pockets to open up?
I don't know. They must. I mean, they're paying for the show. They do their own original series, so they must be doing something.
Yeah, so I'm kind of impressed.
The Sci-Fi Channel has canceled yet another sci-fi show.
Well, there's got to be more room for wrestling.
Exactly. More room for wrestling. Maybe,
Wrestling with the stars.
Maybe UFC. Maybe they add UFC to their lineup.
Well, that I'd watch, but go ahead.
Stargate Universe was not picked up for a third season. The Stargate franchise has been airing on Sci-Fi in one form or another since 2002. However, the current series, despite generally good reviews, including mine, because I liked the first season, was only earning a 0.5 rating in the 18 to 49 band, which is below the average for shows the network keeps around. So,
Yeah.
I think they just, exhausted interest in Stargate.
Do you think it's maybe just been around a little long?
Yeah,
it probably needs a break, right? It probably just needs a
permanent break, maybe.
Permanent break.
I mean, Stargate SG-1 was around for 10 years or 11 years, and then you had Atlantis for 5 or 6 years,
right?
And then this, so for 2 years.
I mean, I could see them maybe taking a 5 to 10 year break and then doing another movie, sort of like Star Trek Enterprise.
But
it feels like they've sort of exhausted this IP in the first place. It's kind of a joke a little bit.
Jeff, what year did Star Trek Next Generation debut?
87 or 86. I forget which. I think it's
so from 87 to the end of Enterprise. That was somewhere around 2001, 2002.
Yeah.
End of Enterprise?
Well,
I think
Enterprise
that's
might have been later
4.
than that. Yeah.
Even more recent?
No, that's 17 years.
Okay, just curious. Which show sort of went on longer in a sense, or which franchise?
Well, yeah, Star Trek.
Yeah, but they had
did.
breaks in between too, and
which one?
I don't know. With Star Trek.
Well, plus you had DS9 and Voyager running at the same time.
That's what I'm saying, that these things overlapped. I don't think that they ever had, from the start of Next Generation, a year that had no Star Trek.
No, they didn't. There were no gaps between Next Generation and the end of Enterprise.
Yeah,
and they actually had 2 shows on the air at once. But both TNG and DS9, and then DS9 and Voyager.
Stargate?
But they also had movies too, and the
right.
Stargate series hasn't had any real actual theatrical releases.
That's
just the original
to DVD movies.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, Stargate's weird though to me because it's been around for so long, and yet I never really watched any of it.
Yeah,
I think I watched 1 or 2 episodes. The first 1 episode of SGU, and it seemed okay, but I was too late to the party. They were referring to all sorts of things, and I had no idea what they were talking about.
It was all right. It wasn't a great show.
Just curious.
Yeah.
All right, I'll take it. Let's see. Deadline reporter Mike Fleming got to interview director Ron Howard, and he asked him how the upcoming TV and film adaptation of Stephen King's Dark Tower series was going. Howard replied, quote, "It is going well, and it has been incredibly stimulating to work on. It's dense. A great author's life work is not to be taken lightly. It has been utterly fascinating to explore it, and we are having great creative conversations. I've begun tossing and turning at 3 a.m. over it, so that's a good sign," end quote. The first movie has announced a release date of May 17th, 2013, with the first season of the TV show following that.
Is the Earth still going to be here then? That's after 2012.
No kidding.
Oh, right. No, I haven't checked yet.
Yes, you're never going to see a Dark Tower series. I'm going to see Game of Thrones.
Don't you dare say that to me.
I'm just joking.
I'm going to get in my time cave and just walk into the future just to make sure that it gets made. No spoilers, though.
Okay.
I'll be right back. Oh, yeah, it gets made.
Okay, good. Good to know.
But guess what?
What?
It stars John Barrowman. Not right for the role. Not right.
No, definitely not.
You know who else? B. Arthur in digital form. I don't know. I'm just making up. All right. Let me scroll down here. There's a little bit more news. Variety reports that Marvel has moved a new property into development for a TV series. A.K.A. Jessica Jones is the title of an adaptation of the Brian Michael Bendis comic Alias. The show is written and would be produced by Melissa Rosenberg, a former producer on Dexter, who has also written all of the Twilight movies.
Whoa.
Selling point!
Yes, those movies are so good. I can't wait to see her take on Jessica Jones.
Jessica Jones is a cynical detective who had a brief, humiliating superhero career and decided it wasn't for her. That's putting it very lightly. Nevertheless, her cases often bring her into the world of superheroes, and in the comics, she eventually ends up married to Luke Cage.
And has a kid with him, right?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, she does, but I don't...
Simplifying some stuff, but yeah.
Do they have the right to do the Luke Cage on it?
Yeah,
I would imagine... that's unfortunately part of the appeal of Jessica Jones is that she's very real, but she exists in the Marvel universe. Like, is plugging in generic superheroes really going to work for that?
Oh, they probably and they probably don't have the rights to the Marvel characters,
right? She's not going to be with Power Man or meeting Daredevil or anything like that.
No, definitely not.
Yeah,
it could be like
weird.
Smallville, though.
I think she went. In fact, I'm pretty sure that a part of her origin, she went to school with Peter Parker.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think she was like, there. She was into Peter Parker, and was going to approach him to tell him that she liked him when he got bitten by a radioactive spider.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, because she's a retcon character. She's a recently made character that they retroactively fit into Marvel history.
Not that recent though. It's been like 8 years or something.
Good point. But actually, I really do like the series. It was some of Bendis's earlier work at Marvel, and it hewed much closer to his, earlier self-published crime fiction stuff. Yeah,
like that,
I kind of dug it. All right, let's see. Oh, another comic book property. Deadline reports that Tudors actress Sarah Bolger has been cast on Fox's upcoming TV adaptation of Joe Hill's comic Lock and Key. Bolger will play Kinsey, the athletic middle child whose family home in Lovecraft, Massachusetts holds powerful supernatural keys that can unlock abilities and doorways into other worlds.
That's promising.
Yeah, moving forward. One of my favorite comics. Hope they do it justice on TV. But Josh Friedman is the executive producer, and I loved what he did with Terminator Sarah Connor Chronicles.
It's just too bad it's on Fox.
Well, yep.
Is this on Fox too?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, yeah, right there it says it.
What do you got first, Chuck?
All right, The Walking Dead, never heard of it, had a brief 6-episode season, but has begun picking up a number of awards and nominations. The American Film Institute named the show as one of the 10 best of the year. It also picked up a Golden Globe nomination for Best Drama. Finally, the show will be honored with a panel at the annual Paley Festival in March, which honors television by pulling together the cast and creators of past and present TV shows.
That's pretty great for a zombie show.
Yeah.
Or for any show, really.
Or any show, but I mean, like a show about zombies, which, the networks for years would not make zombie TV shows, so.
Yeah, I wonder, it's just so strange because it felt like people were getting zombie fatigue, and then this show came out and people are all about it. It just
sort of hews to there's the second time I've used that word, that's annoying. But anyway, it goes by the sort of more traditional zombie rules, and I think people like sort of a back-to-basics, simple approach that just focuses on characters as compared to finding a gimmick within it.
Yeah.
Also, maybe it is more centered on the humans than the zombies.
Right.
Oh, it is.
Which the comic kind of is, too.
And I guess to some people, maybe that's the twist is, it's about zombies, but it isn't campy or silly.
Yeah, and maybe it garnered a lot of Lost viewers too because they're looking for a drama that
Yeah, it's very much like Lost. I mean,
an ensemble cast and stuff.
It's a lot like
hard
Lost
waiting.
or Galactica.
It's going to be hard waiting for the second season this long.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but at least they're going to put it on at the same time next year, unlike what Sci-Fi did with Battlestar or Caprica or other shows.
No, I mean,
yeah, and they'll probably show all the episodes at once instead of splitting it up and then all on one day. When's that supposed to be? In January?
I think it's January 4th, maybe, is the last 5 episodes of Caprica. So it's coming right up.
Such a bummer.
Yeah, I'm probably going to try to watch them because I did like Caprica a bunch. Even though it's dead, I'm still curious what they do with it.
Or did. For 5 hours? You got to get a DVR, dude.
I'm going to DVR it and then I'll watch it.
Yeah, I'll DVR it too.
Because that show got heavy, especially in the second season. Actually, I want to talk about that show. It was weird because it seemed like it dealt with a lot of interesting topics and mythology and stuff like that within the first real season. And then when it came back, it started really getting into the personal drama, which sort of just fell apart. But toward the end of what they've shown so far, it started getting back into that.
Yeah,
that
the very last
really liked about it.
The last episode that they showed had who was Sam Adama's brother? It's been a little while since I watched it, but his gangster brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, he took control of
Sam. That is his name, right?
No.
Sam is the brother.
Sam is the brother.
Oh,
Joseph.
Right, and Joseph is the one that we have heard of. Okay, yeah. Sorry, you're right. So Sam Adama took control of the robot, the first Cylon, and used it as a weapon against other gangsters. And it was really cool seeing what the Cylon could actually be capable of. Well,
we saw on the TV show what it was capable of.
No question. It was just within the context of Caprica of being this new thing. Caprica introduced so many fascinating ideas.
It was a good show.
The virtual world was well done and different.
The religious stuff,
the religious
fleshing
stuff.
out the Army of the One, and
the social classes between different systems, and then of course just the overall contemplation of what is artificial intelligence. It was so interesting.
And it was better than Galactica was in the later seasons, I think.
Yeah, maybe it.
Yeah,
maybe
I would agree with that. At
too
least
far.
for the first part, it was.
Yeah.
Like Icarus, it rose too far and touched the sun and burned in flames before us.
Our special guest this week is Captain Hyperbole. Welcome to the show, Captain.
It was the greatest show of all time. Shakespeare himself rose from the dead only to weep that he had not thought of it.
All right.
What else?
A popular Canadian TV show with a sci-fi twist is getting a U.S. remake, according to Variety. Being Erica centers on a woman who travels back in time to relive a regret from the past and manages to correct those wrongs in the present. The show debuted in early 2009 on Canada's SoapNet channel, and its third season will begin this January. The U.S. remake is being developed by ABC.
It sounds a lot like the last 3 episodes of Felicity when she traveled back in time to right the problems between Noel and that other dude whose name I can't remember off the top.
I know
Noel
I
and
watched
Ben.
Felicity,
Yeah.
Yeah, that always blew my mind when you told me that the last few episodes of Felicity became a sci-fi show.
Yeah, she traveled back in time. And
That just seems so
That's pretty
bizarre.
rad. I kind of just want to watch the entire series just for that one
Just to
moment.
get there, yeah.
it's a J.J. Abrams show, and Matt
Right.
Reeves was the showrunner, and Matt Reeves went on to
But
make
there
good
wasn't
movies.
ever really a hint of that throughout the entire series, was there?
No, but there was a Twilight Zone episode that was like a homage to the original Twilight Zone. It was shot in
Weird.
black and white. It was totally like the Twilight Zone. It was awesome.
This show to me sounds more like a female-friendly version of Journeyman, almost.
Yeah.
Well, but
Yeah.
she's not like correcting other people's problems. I have to admit that sometimes I have daydreamed the idea of what if you could go back to an earlier point in your own life with all the knowledge and memories that you currently have. But I've thought that would be incredibly stressful. It's like
And boring too. Like,
Yeah,
'cause you've
it
already
would be
lived through-
boring,
and
potentially.
you'd be like back in 1987, and you'd have
there's no
1987
new
TV
entertainment
to watch.
Yeah. You're like,
When's the Xbox come out? Jesus.
like, oh great, NES, yes.
great. Like, Chris, why are you watching Moonlighting? Because I didn't before, all right? What do you mean before? But it's like, it would be stressful. It's like, if I'm happy with the way my life is now, like, how could I make my life still line up with that? Or, is there anything that I would change? Or, could I help avoid something like 9/11? Or should I? Like, what would the world become? I don't know. It's so weird to think about stuff like that.
Yeah, and plus, it's the butterfly effect. You step on a butterfly, and your whole life changes.
No, you step on a butterfly and Ashton Kutcher's life changes, I believe, is how the premise goes. Until it goes direct to DVD. And
No, I actually kind of like that movie.
Really? I found it incredibly depressing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's so dark.
Especially the director's cut.
I don't think I saw the director's
He kills
cut.
himself in the womb.
Oh, well, I guess I did see that
pretty-
version then. I didn't know that
Yeah,
was the
it's pretty
director's cut.
Was that the end? Like he kills himself in the womb, and that's it.
Because
Yeah.
every choice he makes keeps making things worse for somebody.
Yeah.
It's horrible. It's so
like-
depressing.
It's like the anti-It's a Wonderful Life. It's pretty awesome.
Oh, and in fact, Mr. Potter shows up at the end and he goes, "And I got all of George Bailey's money." And I was like, really? Odd that you would include a coda to a different movie.
I bought it for like a second.
For a second,
Anyway.
I didn't
All right, Digital Spy was interviewing Dr. Edgar Wright during the DVD.
Wait, you just said
promotional
Dr. Edgar Wright.
Did I?
Yeah.
Oh, I saw Doctor Who right below that.
Dr. Edgar Wright.
Well done,
Dr.
sir.
Edgar Wright.
As-
Anyway, during the procedure for Scott. During the promotion for Scott Pilgrim versus the World, and they brought up Doctor Who. Turns out Wright was offered an episode during Christopher Eccleston's run, but he was too busy and couldn't accept the offer. However, he recently talked with showrunner Stephen Moffat and was extended the open invitation to do an episode, which he says he would like to do. In the same interview, Wright revealed that he hid some classical Doctor Who musical cues in Scott Pilgrim, which included one of the Sea Devils.
Pretty nerdy reference to hide in there, huh?
Yeah.
I didn't notice it, and I've watched the movie twice, and I know a lot of Doctor Who music, but
That movie's, there's so much going on, though. Like,
there really is.
There's a lot.
It's kind of disorienting. Like, watching it on Blu-ray, when I got it, got the Blu-ray edition, like, I was kind of overwhelmed.
It
It is very sensory overload, kind of layers upon layers.
Yeah, in a fun way.
Yeah, definitely.
The second time I saw it, I realized that every time there's something like KO or Game Over, it's Bill Hader from Saturday Night Live and stuff doing those voiceovers.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know.
Yeah. I think I wonder if he's in Paul, the upcoming Edgar Wright movie. I think he is. Have you seen the trailer for it?
I have not seen it yet. No.
It's funny. It's really funny.
Cool.
Yeah, so it's definitely a great movie, and sorry, it's a great movie, and
What the hell's that bell ringing?
Hello, boys! It's Santa Claus!
Santa, you were just on Join Hops Monthly.
I was, but I came by with a very important list that I wanted to share with your listeners for Christmas, if that's okay with you, Jeff.
Please, yeah.
And with you, Chuck.
Again?
Such language is inappropriate.
Chuck, this is a family show, okay?
No. What I wanted to tell people is that at this time of year, giving away a TV season on DVD is a very popular gift. But there are many TV seasons on DVD that you should not give as gifts. They're inappropriate and just bad. And I have it as a list here that I would like to read with your permission.
Okay.
Here we go. Please do not give these TV shows on DVD as a gift. Heroes, Flash Forward, Flashback, Flash Present, Flash, Big Bang Theory, Big Bang Bus Theory, Merlin, Morlon, Muffet the Daggett, Galactica 1980, Garfield and Friends, Taft and Friends, Reagan and Friends, Obama and his GOP friends, Friends,
Wow.
The Single Guy, Caroline in the City and Caroline, Sex and the City, Nitty Gritty Scritty Polity City, The O'Reilly Factor, The O'Reilly Factor, Celebrity Rehab, One Hit Wonder Rehab, Small Wonder Rehab, Star Trek Voyager, Star Trek Enterprise, Star Trek Escalade, Stargate Atlantis, Stargate Universe, Stargate New Jersey, Jersey Shore, Jersey Whore, Jersey Bore, CSI Miami, Law and Order Los Angeles, NCIS WTF, 2.5 Men, 2.5 Jokes, 2.5 Minutes Till Charlie Sheen Rapes You. My Dad Says, Mike and Molly, The Event, and everything on NBC for the last 7 years. Oh, ho, 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 ho. Merry Christmas!
Bye, Santa.
Wow.
That was so great. Santa's got such a potty mouth, man.
Santa does have a potty mouth. I was actually just going to the potty. What did I miss?
Santa came in and he read us a list of DVD shows that we shouldn't buy.
I miss
some of
him
which
every
Santa
year.
completely made up.
Well, I don't think Santa can lie. I'm pretty sure that I read that in a textbook growing up.
I think the part about Charlie Sheen raping you is pretty accurate.
Yeah. No, I don't know what you're referring to, but I know that you should be aware of that.
For anyone for Christmas.
No, why
one
would you
wants
want to? That's horrible.
All right, so we sampled a pool of our listeners for their top 3 favorite shows that aired in 2010, and here are the results. The complete list of all nominated shows are as follows: Community, Walking Dead, The League, Venture Brothers, Adventure Time. What's Adventure Time?
I don't know, but I think it's a...
Adventure Time is a cartoon on the Cartoon Network, and it's really absurd and fun. It's actually a really great cartoon. I recommend it.
Doctor Who, How I Met Your Mother, Archer, Justified, Mad Men, Supernatural, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, I Survived, Sons of Anarchy, Woohoo! Fringe, Boardwalk Empire, Lost, The Daily Show, Louie, Eastbound and Down, Breaking Bad, True Blood, and the increasingly poor decisions of Todd Margaret.
All right, so that's a lot that were nominated because I polled a pretty big number of people for this.
Did that Todd Margaret show come out yet?
It was on
Yeah,
IFC.
it was on IFC.
Oh,
Yeah.
Huh. Crap.
It didn't get great reviews.
So I just thought I'd compile it and see what adds up to basically being the favorite out of all of those.
So coming in at number 3 is The Walking Dead, and I'm really surprised that came in at number 3. A lot of people like
so
that
am I.
show.
But think about it,
I think it's probably just because it's a new show that's fresh in everybody's mind.
yeah, I think so too. I think that the reason it made the list is because it's fresh, and I don't think it necessarily deserves to be higher than some of these shows that people have watched and fallen in love with for a while, or is new and fresh. I don't know.
I would go so far as to say Boardwalk Empire exceeds Walking Dead in every fashion.
Well, they're very different shows, though. It's hard to
Yeah,
compare.
but they came out both sort of at the same time, and they were,
Yeah,
brought to life by movie directors, basically.
it's an interesting point.
Ensemble casts.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, Walking Dead was very entertaining, and you don't get these ratings, you don't get this sort of acclaim if people don't like what you're doing. There's definitely something to Walking Dead that people are connecting to.
Zombies.
Is it just zombies?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think it might be.
The struggle of humanity in the face of zombies.
Well, give credit to Walking Dead for getting to comics first and now getting to TV first,
Definitely.
If not first, certainly
The best.
significantly first, in a significant way.
Yeah, definitely. So number 2 shouldn't be is no surprise to anyone who listens to this show and to Chris and Chuck. That would be Supernatural.
I was very glad to see it make the list. I thought that, with shows that are so popular with a bunch of people It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia or Lost or Boardwalk Empire or even Fringe has gotten really amazing. These were all shows that were nominated. I was really, really happy to see that Supernatural ended up number 2.
Yeah, I knew that, Chris and I would vote for Supernatural, but I'm glad that other people are watching it and enjoying it, too.
Yeah.
And tied at number 1, Community and Doctor Who. Community
got so
Interesting.
many votes.
Yeah, very interesting. A lot of people love Community. And
I do.
I think that shows.
It's a sitcom that is not at all afraid to take chances with what they can do. I mean, it knows that it's a sitcom. It's not trying to be more than that, but it's trying to be funny in lots of different ways. And
Who writes that show?
well,
who produces it?
Dan
I guess?
Harmon. Dan Harmon, who came from Channel 101. He helped create the Sarah Silverman program.
Yeah, and it's got a bunch of comedians that aren't afraid to take chances, too, so
Right.
it's like the perfect mix.
That guy, Donald Glover, who plays Troy on it, he was actually a writer on 30 Rock for the first season, and then he just decided that he wanted to be a stand-up comedian.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he hadn't, he got the 30 Rock job straight out of college.
Wow.
There
And
was a
people thought he
rumor
was
for a while-
crazy.
There was a rumor for a while that he would be Peter Parker.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. But anyway, Doctor Who, always nice to see that gets so much love within sort of our community.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people who listen to our show like Doctor Who, and
I feel
Did
like
Doctor Who win last year, too?
I think it might have, yeah.
Might have.
Yeah.
One of our listeners will have to tell us because we don't remember.
Yeah.
So this last show, the number 1 show of the decade, according to Television Zombies contributors, it's kind of a wonderful surprise, actually. 15 years ago, when I was watching the original series on VHS, I love this show so much, and I wanted it to come back so badly. And when it came back, it was just so amazing, and it exceeded expectations. And that show, obviously, is Doctor Who.
I didn't think to look back at what last year's was for comparison.
I think this year it deserves number 1, but I do believe last year I said that I didn't see how that was possible.
Yeah, I think I might have agreed last year as well. But this year definitely deserved it.
I think the cool thing about Doctor Who is that, it's been around a long time, and it's very intimidating to think, can I jump in? Will I get it? Or is it going to be referring to too much old stuff? But everybody I know that gives it a chance really falls in love with it. I've never heard anybody just go, it wasn't for me.
It's really not that difficult to understand.
No,
It's not.
It's a really
Old alien who travels through space and time and rights wrongs.
Hangs out with cool chicks.
Yeah.
It's a really basic premise when you really get down to it, that you can do almost anything with, because he can go anywhere.
And because you can change the actor, it becomes like a new show, you know.
It's brilliant.
Every few years, you can have a brand new show,
right.
which is awesome. More.
And this past year of Doctor Who, I really, really enjoyed.
Are you excited about the Christmas special, Chris?
I'm so excited that we get it on the same day this year.
It's pretty awesome. I'm pretty excited myself.
Yeah. No, and it looks really good. I heard that Arthur Davil, who plays Rory, is now on the credits.
Yeah, he's before the title.
Doctor Who title. So
yeah, which is pretty awesome.
Awesome.
He's
just
a
sort
real
of
member of the cast.
Yeah, indicating that he's definitely
and the
a member.
first male regular companion on Doctor Who since
Right.
it relaunched.
Right.
I mean, unless you count Captain Jack, but he was only like a
But if we're going to
companion
count
for
that, then somebody like Mickey appeared in several episodes in a row as a companion.
Right.
But he
was
wasn't
never really a
he wasn't
regular.
really a regular, but
No.
Rory's going to be like in every episode.
Yeah,
he
I
was
like
in a bunch
that.
last year. Yeah.
I think it's good to change up the dynamic finally, because always having just like this one female companion every year, and most of them the time young female
who are like in love with the Doctor.
right. It gets old. We need something new.
And
There's so many dynamics that you can have.
Exactly. So I kind of like how they've done it. And here's a list of the shows nominated as the worst for 2010. Outsourced, which I've never seen.
I watched the first episode. No, I watched like 10 minutes of the first episode. It's horrible.
The premise is just terrible.
It's
Why would you want to
offensive.
watch
It's
anything
really
that's gonna
offensive.
It's
get-
offensive in the sense that
racist.
because the joke is, the premise
It's
is that a
absolutely
guy
racist.
from America goes to direct, the sales team in India. Fine. But the joke isn't like on this guy for not fitting in or something. The joke is always like, oh, they have such weird names and eat such strange food over there. But it's like, they're not outsiders in India. Like, the white guy from America is the outsider. He should
Right.
be the one that's
It's
Just
like a
Todd from-
vaudeville act. It's like an old school vaudeville act brought to
Just
modern
like
day
Todd
times.
Margaret.
It's like, hey, remember all those acts like back in the day where black people would humiliate themselves just to get a laugh for white people?
Yeah.
Like, that's the same. It's the same
Yeah.
thing, but for Indian people now.
That show, yeah.
yeah.
My dad says, which
I mean-
I've heard is poorly written, but had
I
a
don't know.
great casting in William Shatner.
No
Yeah.
question. I mean, I'm
sad about
happy
that.
for William Shatner. Everybody loves William Shatner, but it's just like the jokes are so not
Yeah, not
original.
good.
You know what? The shows like 2.5 Men and Big Bang Theory. It's like, I understand that some people like them, but the jokes are like so interchangeable. Like everybody's a wise ass.
Every single joke with 2.5 Men is a sex joke.
Yeah, I find that show really repulsive. I find it really depressing because the joke is always like, oh, Charlie's banging someone this week, and like his brother gets humiliated and made to
Yeah.
look like a complete ass.
That
It's
show's
depressing.
terrible.
The kid is completely oblivious to everything.
Right.
Glee, which is funny to see it show up on this list because Glee is
Popular.
really popular. A lot of people like it.
I was so close to voting for that.
Just on.
I mean,
principle.
I didn't because I understood why people like it. I just it really bugs me.
It's not for you.
Yeah.
No.
2.5 Men, which we just mentioned.
We were just making fun of you.
The Cleveland Show, which is basically the Black Family Guy.
Guessing Chris voted for that.
No, actually, I didn't. I don't think I voted for anything. I felt like it would be a little unfair.
The O'Reilly Factor.
Good. Nice to see somebody hate
Yeah.
something that legitimately deserves it.
V.
Yeah, complete disappointment.
The increasingly poor decisions of Todd Margaret.
Yep.
And The Big Bang Theory.
Wait, that's the worst and the best.
Yeah, increasingly poor decisions of Todd Margaret made it in both lists as a nomination.
That's a pretty divisive show.
I guess so. I don't know. Some people, I think, expected a lot more out of David Cross. I thought it was okay. I only watched like 2 episodes.
Well,
I don't know. I guess if you're going off of expectations, then
Right, you can count
Perhaps
that
you-
as a disappointment, I suppose. But
Yeah.
there's other shows that deserve hatred more,
yeah, definitely.
that are like actively bad.
So, guys, this week we have an interview with George R.R. Martin, a writer who needs no introduction, my favorite writer. Enjoy.
Hello,
Hi, Mr. Martin.
speaking.
Hi, it's Chris from the Television Zombies podcast.
Hi, Chris. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, thanks. Just wanted to let you know, first of all, my co-host Jeff is here with us.
Hi, Mr. Martin. It's a really great honor that you're on our show. I've been reading your stories since I was like 12 years old, so I'm very excited.
Oh, well, that's a depressing thought.
No,
No.
not at all.
What? I'm 36 years old. Does that depress you?
I only feel like, 12 years old myself some days. Let me switch to another phone, guys. Hold on a second.
Yeah, sure.
Hi there. How you doing?
Hey. Oh, that even sounds better. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I was on a hand cordless. This old-fashioned landline is better.
Mr. Martin, before we begin discussing your writing and basically all the different projects that you're busy working on, I just wanted to know if you have any early NFL playoff predictions on how things are going to shake out, because I'm an avid reader of your blog. I'm always reading your take on the Jets and the Giants, but I'm kind of curious what you think at this point.
Well, it's an interesting season. I mean, the Jets and the Giants are both still in the mix, but the last couple of weeks have shaken my confidence in them a little.
Yeah.
Particularly the Jets, whose last two games have been just awful. Their offense seems to have lost the key to scoring touchdowns.
Yeah, I don't know if Rex is going to be able to pull off any magic at this point personally, but I'm a Patriots fan, so maybe I shouldn't have revealed that.
You are a Patriots fan. Oh, God.
Originally
well,
from New England.
Of the evil empire. Well, the Patriots do look like the choice. I mean, the way they crushed the Jets was pretty amazing.
Right.
And they do have Tom Brady, who's an amazing player. Obviously, Bill Belichick made some deal with the devil to get him in the sixth.
Anybody that you'd like to see make it this year, the big game?
If my own teams aren't in it, I kind of tend to root for the underdog.
Fair enough.
Teams that haven't been there before. So it'd be cool to see the Falcons go all the way. They've never won it, and that team's been a doormat for many, many years.
Right.
So that's kind of cool. I'm not a big fan of the Eagles, of course, who are an arch foe of my Giants. So
Boo hiss.
I'm not rooting for the Eagles. I hope the Eagles crash and burn. And I'm not a fan of Michael Vick either.
No, nor am I.
He's a great player. He's a great player.
Yep.
I'll give him that. And he served his time, but, I'm just not convinced. And I'm an animal lover, I suppose, which colors my thing. I've heard all of Vick's apologies. He made a mistake. He let down his teammates. He let down his family. He let down himself. He let down all the people who believe in him. He never mentions the dogs.
Good
he never
point.
mentions
Good
the
point.
actual victims. He never says,
Yeah.
I'm really sorry for what I did to all those dogs. How could I have been so incredibly cruel? So it's hard for me to root for a guy like that to do well.
Yeah.
So I'm not rooting for him to do well. I'm rooting for his team to lose. So I really hope it's not an Eagles-Patriots Super Bowl, because then I would have to kill myself.
Oh, geez, no, please not that. Well, we're off to a great depressing start.
Yeah.
Jeff, save us with a question.
So Mr. Barr,
Right.
so you began your career originally as a science fiction writer working on short stories and novels, and then you made the jump to television and then back again to fiction, to prose,
Novels
print,
and prose,
novel. So my question for you is, how did you originally break into Hollywood? What made you decide to work on television after you'd been establishing yourself as a writer in print?
Well, it's sometimes these decisions are made for you by the market. I was quite a successful, relatively. I was doing well for the first decade of my career, my decade and a half as a science fiction and horror writer. And I was writing novels. My first, second, and better were nominated for awards, and each one sold better. My advances went up. I was doing very, very well. And then I wrote a book called The Armageddon Rag, my rock and roll novel, my fourth novel. And The Armageddon Rag was very well received. It got some great reviews. It was nominated for a World Fantasy Award, and nobody bought it. It was a colossal commercial failure. And publishing is a hard business. You're only as good as your last book, and when your last book crashes and burns, you may find yourself, as I did, unable to sell the book after that, because no one wanted the novel I was writing on after Armageddon Rag. Fortunately, at the same time, Armageddon Rag was optioned by Hollywood. It did get those good reviews. It did have the awards nominations. And a writer-producer named Phil DeGuerre, who was a big rock and roll fan, loved the book and bought an option on it to develop it as a feature film. And he flew me out to Los Angeles after he'd taken the option, and we had some meetings to discuss the screenplay. Phil wrote the screenplay of Armageddon Rag himself. He wanted to direct it himself. Obviously, the movie was never made, but through those discussions over a couple of years, I got to know Phil. And as it turned out, a couple of years later, Phil was the person that that CBS turned to when they wanted to revive Twilight Zone. So when Phil was reviving Twilight Zone, he looked around for writers, and he gave a chance to do scripts to many science fiction and fantasy writers, some of whom, like Harlan Ellison and Alan Brennert, were prose writers, but they'd also had some pretty extensive credits in television and film.
Sure.
But others were people like Robert Silverberg and Steve Barnes and various others who had not previously done. L. Neil Schumann, not done television film before that. And so I wrote a couple scripts for Twilight Zone, and I liked them well enough. And the next thing I knew, I was on staff on the show, which came along at just the perfect time for me because, it was like the Armageddon rag closed one door, but it opened another door for me. So that was the transition book. And sometimes the market makes these decisions for you. You take the work where you can find the work.
And then you sort of went back to writing full time, more prose and stuff. Was there anything that precipitated that, or is that just where your interests lay at that point?
Basically in Hollywood for 10 years, roughly from 1985 to 1995. And I was staff initially on Twilight Zone, and I was writing and sometimes producing prospective series of my own. But all the time I was doing all of that, I was still writing prose. I was editing my Wildcard series.
Oh, okay.
And also writing a lot for that Wildcard series, which started coming out right at the same time Twilight Zone started, around 1987 or so. First the Wildcard book was published, and we actually began working on it in 85. And I was doing occasional novellas. The Skin Trade, the World Fantasy Award for me, was written like weekends and nights while I was working on Twilight Zone. I would come out with short stories and things like that periodically. I wrote a bunch of Avalon Tough stories and got those published. So I always kept my hand in on the prose side of it, because prose, short stories, and books were my first love.
Right.
And finally, in 1995, I think what really got me out of it was, I talked about how I was out there for 10 years. The first year, there's a lot of stress. There's a lot of it's a high pressure job working on a television series. But I did have the pleasure of writing these scripts for Twilight Zone and Beauty and the Beast, and then seeing them filmed, seeing them cast, and they went before the cameras. They were edited. They went on the air. Millions of people saw them. When I got to the second 5 years, the money was better than ever. Development can be very lucrative, so I'm getting paid all this money. But nothing is ever getting made.
No.
I'm working for a year on a movie, and then they decide not to do it, or somebody does a similar movie, so they put it on the shelf.
Right.
I worked for a year and a half on a television show, and they say, no, we had a change in staff, and we don't like it as much as we did a year and a half ago.
Are you talking about specifically, just out of curiosity, are you referring to Doorways?
Well, Doorways was certainly a big one. That was the one I was referring to in that last incident. Yeah, I worked on a year and a half on Doorways.
Right.
And we were so close to having a series on the air. I really thought I was going to have my own show on the air.
Right.
And then at the last moment, everything falls apart.
Yeah. Which you've written extensively about.
Doorways was only one of like 6 pilots that I did or supervised. I did a medical show called Black Cluster. I did a couple other science fiction shows, Starport and Survivors. The way I write, I really throw myself into these projects, and I kind of fall in love with the characters and the world, and they come to dominate my life. And the climax of these relationships with these fictional people is when the book comes out or when the show is shown. And if you never get to that, it ultimately gets to be very frustrating. You're doing a lot of work. It feels like you're giving birth to a lot of stillborn children, and it's it
interesting.
It ultimately drove me crazy. It was just too damn frustrating. I don't care how much money they wanted to pay me. I need an audience. I need to get the stuff out there and read reviews and meet people who've read it and feel that I'm actually my characters and my stories and my worlds are coming alive. So I miss writing books. I mean, Hollywood, as they say, is a collaborative medium.
right.
television and film, and that's true. They are collaborative mediums, and that's both good and bad. On the one hand, you're working with a lot of other very smart and creative people who sometimes have great ideas of their own, and you can really get into like a creative jam session where you're sparking ideas off each other and you're making each other's things better, and it's really great. But on the other hand, sometimes your ideas don't agree with each other, and then you're getting into fights about it, and you don't always win the fights as a writer in Hollywood. You win some, you lose some. You got to weigh. Well, do I want to fight about this particular issue? Does it really matter? In books, the writer is everything. The writer is the writer. He's also the director. He's also all of the actors. He's the casting director. He's the set designer.
Right.
He does the special effects. And I kind of craved that sort of total control and missed it. And all of this, I think, is part of why I went back to books.
And I just have to follow up on that because it's interesting. You've got this new IDW comic book, Doorways, that you're doing with artist Stefano Martino,
right.
Which is, of course, the reworking of that TV show that you talked about with ABC. And, what made you decide that comics is the right medium? I mean, I suspect from what you just said, it's something along the lines of, like, a little bit more control. It's still collaborative, but a little more control? Or is there something else there?
Well, the Doorways stories existed. I mean, they've been around since 1992 and 93.
Yeah.
And they've just been mostly sitting in drawers. But I did fall in love with those characters, and this was a chance to get the stories of these characters and let an audience enjoy them. Finally, after all these years, so I was glad to do that. And of course, the thing that dominates my life at this point is a series. That's what I'm spending 80% of my working hours on. The Doorways comic, I'm pleased to see it, but basically they're working from 1992 and 1993 scripts, and Stefano Martino is doing the adaptation and rendering them in comics form. So it's a great way to get my old stories out without actually having to do a lot of work on it.
Along those same lines, I was wondering what your reaction was to Melinda Snodgrass's adaptation of Sand Kings for Showtime's Outer Limits. I remember just having Showtime on one day, and suddenly I see the story with Beau Bridges, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is Sand Kings. It's different than the original, but it's still recognizable. So I'm just curious, like, how you received that. How pleased were you with the Outer Limits adaptation?
I think they did a pretty good job, given the parameters that they were working under. One of the things that my own 10 years in Hollywood taught me is that sometimes you do have to make changes. I know a lot of people who are prose writers of books and short stories, or fans of that get upset when television or film changes something in an adaptation. And in many cases, they have a right to be upset, but not in all cases, and there are reasons for that. I mean, I knew what the budget was on the Outer Limits, though. I was the one who recommended Melinda for that gig. She's an old friend of mine, a colleague on the Wildcard series, and of course she's done some terrific work on Star Trek and other shows that she's been involved in a television capacity. So I knew she'd do a good job on it. But there were certain things that they just couldn't do. Given their budget on Outer Limits. I mean, the Sand Kings, the short story, takes place on an entire alien planet. They could not create an entire alien planet with flying cars and volcanoes and other things like that. So they moved it to Earth. They made it contemporary, so they don't have to deal with everybody wearing a strange futuristic costume or, the architecture and all that being totally different. And I think all of that worked well enough. They did do a few things. I remember when one of the producers on the Outer Limits called me up very excited and said, "Oh, they have." He said, "Well, we have 3 generations of Bridges cast in this. We have Beau Bridges is playing Simon Cress, who of course is the main character, and we have Beau's little son as Simon's." Son, and we have Lloyd Bridges as the old man. Isn't that great? And I said to him, well, yes, Richard, that's fabulous, except you realize in my story there is no old man and there is no son. So I don't know if we needed the old man and the son, even though they were played by Bridges, but and somehow they missed out on Jeff. They got three Bridges, but no Jeff Bridges, who of course is my favorite Bridges.
Yeah.
But all in all, I was pretty happy with Sand Kings.
Very cool. You had just mentioned your Wild Card series, and it's just got me curious. When's the next book coming out? And also, I was curious if you have any plans for another shot at comics with the Wild Cards stories.
We have the Wild Cards is currently being published by Tor Books. They've published 3 new books, which are volumes 18, 19, and 20 in the overall series, although we don't number them anymore. And they're sort of Wild Cards the Next Generation. But they've also bought rights to some of the old books. So just last week, Wild Cards 1 was reissued. And this is the first book in the original series, originally published in 1987. But we published it with this version from Tor, has extra added content because we added 3 brand new stories by 3 of our newer and younger contributors. Wow. So even people who have the original book from 87 will find some great new stuff in the new edition. We also have a new book that's delivered called Fort Freak, which will be volume 21 in the overall series, and that one will be out next June from Tor. That one is finished and delivered, where it's just working its way through the pipeline. And we hope to do more after that.
Do you also plan on, or does Tor also plan on reissuing the other Wild Cards books as well?
Well, they're definitely going to reissue volumes 2 and 3. And after that, of course, it all depends on sales.
Right.
So many things does. So if people go out and they buy these old books and support the series, we'll continuing reissuing them. Some of them have become quite rare, particularly the middle books. There's some of the last books before Tor took us on go for more than $100 or so from rare book things because they're very hard to find. So it'd be great to get some of those reprinted because I know there's a lot of demand for them. As for comics, we Daniel Abraham did a comic series, The Hard Call.
Right.
Which was an original story set in the Wild Card universe, not an adaptation of any existing story. And unfortunately, it was done with the DeBell brothers, and
they had their own series of business problems, I guess.
They did, and as a result, there were long delays. We got out like 3 issues, and then it was like a year before issue 4 got out, and another year before issue 5 got out. But after issue 5. All of the DeBell titles were taken over by Dynamite.
Right.
And Dynamite published issue 6, and now Dynamite is putting all 6 issues together in a graphic novel format.
Oh,
so
perfect.
That one is coming in the pipeline. I just reviewed the proofs for that, so I'm not quite sure when they intend to bring that out, but it should be pretty soon. So you'll be able to pick up the entire Hardcore story in one volume.
Wonderful. Awesome. That's great news.
Speaking of anthologies that you edit, what's your level of involvement with the upcoming Down These Strange Streets anthology, and what exactly do your duties as an editor encompass on that?
Well, Gardner Dozois and I do those things together. Gardner's one of my oldest friends. We met in 1971. He was actually the guy who helped buy my first story. And he's also one of the most distinguished editors in the field. He's won like 17 Hugos for his years on Asimov science fiction. And we've been doing these kind of cross-genre anthologies where we mix science fiction and fantasy with other genres like historical fiction and mysteries, romance, what have you. So we're co-editors on all of those. We both, we solicit the writers, we review and edit the stories. There's various technical things involved. Gardner takes care of certain things. I take care of certain other things. But basically, we split up the workload pretty evenly. And Down the Strange Streets is the latest. We just delivered that one. It'll be out next November. And that one is sort of a mixture of private eye stories with fantasy and science fiction. And we have some great contributors for that. Charlene Harris and Diana Gabaldon, Cecilia Holland, I could go on and on, Daniel Abraham, amazing lineup of writers from fantasy, science fiction, and the romance field, and the mystery field. We also have another anthology that's out right now that came out a couple weeks ago called Songs of Love and Death, and that one's anotar cross-genre. That one is star-crossed lovers mixed with science fiction and fantasy. So, kind of a blend of dark romance with the imaginative fields. So, they're a lot of fun to do, and I enjoy doing anthologies. I broke in with short stories. I love short stories. I don't have time to write many of them anymore, but by editing some short stories by other people, I can kind of keep my hand in it a little.
Right. You say you don't have much time. I think I'd be remiss if I didn't address this. My listeners are always saying the Myronese knot. That's the term you coin on your blogs for the plot difficulties, I guess, in the upcoming book for A Song of Fire and Ice. And I was curious. You had written in your blog fairly recently, in the summer and autumn, that you've hacked away at it and that it's hanging by a thread. I was curious if you've finally cut through that knot or if you're close.
I think I'm close. I think I have one more thread to slash, and we'll see if it all falls into place when that's done here. But I resolved most of it, but at least I think so. Knock wood.
Will do.
I've thought a half dozen times I'd resolved it, and then I would reread it a couple weeks later, and no, this isn't. No, it would be better this way. I would start redoing it all over again. So.
Is it a matter of matching up the timelines, or with the previous book, or is it something that you just can't get into yet, or?
Well, I can't discuss the specifics without giving away enormous spoilers.
No, not looking for that. Wouldn't make you do that.
But yes, in very broad outline, it's the chronology is part of it. It's
okay.
It's like 4 or 5 viewpoint characters. I don't even remember how many are coming together in the city of Marine, and there are various dramatic events and happenings that are happening in Marine. I can't discuss specifics, but it's a question of who should get there first? Well, who left first? How are they traveling?
Yeah.
What are they encountering along the way? That determines who gets there first. But then there's also dramatic questions about which is the correct order. This guy gets there first. This guy gets there first. No, but this guy gets there first, and that would make this happen. This event should come before that event. But it's more dramatic if that event comes before this event. And what about the other event? And it's.
Permutations upon
it's
permutations.
Even talking about it, but
you know what? I feel bad then.
Yeah.
Sorry, sir. Jeff, save me, Jeff.
So we've read that.
I don't know. When the book comes out, people may read it and say, "What the hell was the problem?"
Well, that would be a good
thing. The reality of the writer's life is you work on these things, especially if you work on something as long as I've been working on this book.
Yeah.
And you get to a point where you're not sure that you're seeing the forest for the trees. You're obsessing over these small details, and you're trying to get everything not just good but great. And you're rewriting, and you're changing things, and you're reordering things, and restructuring things. And it comes to a point where you say, "Am I really improving it here, or am I just kind of spinning my wheels and going round and round in a circle?" And
do you rely on any other writers or friends for a little bit of objectivity there, or is it a very personal thing?
I have friends who read this and that and the other thing, but ultimately I rely on myself.
Sure.
I'm the final. I have to be the final judge of this. It's going to be my name on the book.
Good point.
I can't, if it comes out and it's bad, I can't say, "Oh, my friend told me to do it that way." Yeah. So I'm determined to try to get as good as it can possibly be. And how good that is, of course, the Tuesday me and the Thursday me don't necessarily always agree.
Fair enough. Jeff, you want to wrap this up for us?
Yeah, so we've read that you're writing, or you have written an episode of HBO's adaptation of Game of Thrones. So we were wondering, what's it like to revisit your characters from such an earlier point in their lives, before the creation of the Myronese knot, and after you've taken them through so much over the last decade?
It was actually fun. I was worried about it's been quite a while since I've written a screenplay or a teleplay, so God, well, I still remember how to do it, but it turned out to be like riding a bicycle, as they say, which I've always found ironic since I've never been able to ride a bicycle. I keep falling off, but never mind.
We just broke news.
Anyway, I did remember how to write a screenplay, a teleplay rather, and once I got into it, it all came back. The hardest part was actually accustoming myself to the new software, because there are these script writing programs. At the time, I was very active in Hollywood. There were certain ones that everybody was using, and now, of course, nobody uses those anymore. They got whole new ones, so I had to reaccustom myself to a new software, which had some nice features and some things I didn't like. But once I did that, the writing went pretty easily, and it was great to revisit these characters and scenes again. So the episode I wrote for the show is episode 8.
Okay.
Which is there's 10 episodes in the first season, and it's titled "The Pointy End."
Okay. Think we can guess what that's about if we're fans of the novels?
Without spoiling it for people who haven't read the novels.
So I'm pleased with that.
Wonderful. Well, Mr. Martin, it's been an absolute pleasure. You've been very generous with your time. You've got my friend Jeff here grinning ear to ear.
Yeah, I'm really, really grateful that you've been on the show. It's been really great.
And, thank you for updating our listeners on all the projects that you've got coming up. And all our
my
best.
Pleasure. And when you have this all up or something, drop me an email and I will link to it from my blog.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Will do. So thank you very much. Have a good day.
Okay, you too. Take care now.
Bye.
Bye.
So I was really nervous. Like I've met like presidents and senators and stuff through my old job, but
it's different to meet somebody that has a personal connection to you.
Yeah, like I was. You can tell I'm pretty nervous and excited.
I don't think you can tell in the interview.
Oh, I can tell.
You can tell.
I can tell hearing myself. Yeah, but he was awesome. It was just amazing talking to him, calling him on the phone. Great guy, great writer, one of the best, and really generous, extremely generous with his time.
Yeah, and learned a lot.
That about does it for this week's show. We're taking a couple of weeks off for the holidays, but when we return in January, we'll cover new shows like the U.S. version of Being Human and conduct more interviews. Here's a big one we have coming up.
Stan Lee.
Chew on that one. As always, please visit us online at TelevisionZombies.com for all the best cult television news, reviews, commentary, and humor. We'd love to hear what you think. Please send your comments to TelevisionZombies@gmail.com or leave us a voicemail message at our toll-free listener comment line at 1-888-204-9591. For the show, this is Jeff.
This is Chris.
And this is Chuck.
Happy New Year! Television Zombies is produced by Chris Pierce and Jeff Barris and features Chuck Knigge. Interview subject this week, Mr. George R.R. Martin. Outro music by American Center.